bring in Charean Williams of the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. Charean, let's start right there. What is your best estimate, percentage chance that Tony Romo will play Sunday night against the Eagles?
You took the number right out of my mouth, Mike. I give him 5% chance, only because we do know his toughness. We do know what he's played through. A punctured lung, he didn't know he had at the time, but that's fractured ribs a couple years ago against the 49ers and played great. And thumb injury. He's had everything that he's played through and played awfully well, including the back injury last week. So that's the only reason I give him the 5% chance. He's not going to play in this game. He's not attending meetings. He's not going to practice. He's not watching practice. He's not ready to play. He's not going to play in this game.
But do we factor into this the fact that he did play after tweaking the back during the game? He finished the game. Is that relevant whatsoever in looking at whether or not they can shoot him up with enough Toradol to get him ready to go on Sunday?
Yeah, I guess you do factor that in. Again, his toughness, and that's, I think, why you leave it open to the 5%. I think when the injury report comes out today, it's going to say doubtful. And, Jason Witten probably put it best. He said, you don't rule Tony Romo out until he's not there on game day. And I think it's the same thing with Jason Witten, but you don't. I mean, just because of what he's played through in his entire career and how tough he has been. But again, I think the Eagles know he's not going to play. I think the Cowboys know he's not going to play. They're preparing for Kyle Orton to go out there and lead him. And I got Jerry Jones yesterday, and he talked how excited he was about Kyle Orton and how well he thought Kyle Orton would play on Sunday.
We're talking to Charean Williams of the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. Does Jerry Jones deserve a little pat on the back for having the foresight to have a veteran quarterback as the backup instead of the revolving door of guys who can't get it done that other teams have had when their quarterback's been injured?
Absolutely, Mike. You got a guy who's played 69 games and made 69 starts and has played some good games in this league. I know he's only 35 and 34, but at least he has the experience, and they're in a better position than, say, the Green Bay Packers were when they lost Aaron Rodgers. You hope you never lose your quarterback, but if you do lose him, you better have a pretty viable backup back there. And the Cowboys spent the money to get Kyle Orton in here, gave him a $5 million signing bonus, and they feel good about what they have in Kyle Orton and the fact that he's been here for 2 years and knows the system and knows these players, and they feel like they'll be okay in this game with Kyle Orton. Doesn't fix their defense. He can't go out and play defensive end, so that's probably a bigger problem at this point.
Well, Romo's not the only guy with a back injury. Dez Bryant, star receiver, has some sort of a back condition, but it looks a lot more optimistic for him, doesn't it?
It sure does. He's had back issues in the last couple years and played through those mostly. He left in a wheelchair after Week 17 of that Redskins game last year, but he vows to play. Jerry Jones says he's going to play. They're not worried about his health. They feel like he'll be out there and be okay, but not 100%, but pretty close to it.
What happens if the Cowboys lose? Is Jason Garrett back next year?
I think he is back next year. I think if they had lost last week, we'd have a lot more questions at this point. I think Jason probably would be gone for next year. But the fact that they got to another win-or-go-home game, third year in a row, probably not going to get it done. I don't think any of us expect them to win this game. They're 6.5-point underdogs at home without their starting quarterback and without Sean Lee, which is huge too. But, I think that sort of saves Jason Garrett. They have that to lean back on. Well, if they've had Sean Lee, if they had Tony Romo getting to that game, they think they could have won. And they think they could contend in the playoffs if they can get there. But getting there has been the problem for this team the last 2 years. But I do think Jason returns next year. The bigger question probably is if Monte Kiffin's back.
And right now we would probably say he won't be back?
I think we would probably say that, but I also think they want to keep Rod Marinelli. So you have to figure out a way to do that because the one thing we know about Rod Marinelli is he's very loyal. He was very loyal to Lovie Smith, and he's very loyal to Monte Kiffin. So you're going to have to do it in the right way to be able to keep Rod Marinelli.
All right, great stuff, Charean. Happy holidays. Enjoy the game Sunday. We'll be talking to you down the road.
Thanks, Mike.
Charean Williams, Fort Worth Star-Telegram on the Cowboys.
The Dan Patrick Show, weekday mornings on Audience.